Good evening, Rotarians, Rotaractors, and friends of Rotary. Welcome to tonight's fellowship at the Rotary Club of Kyadondo. Before we get into the business of the day, I would like us to go through the protocols by the body group in charge of fellowship tonight.
Good evening, Rotarians, guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our fellowship today, hosted by Butambala Body Group. We'll begin with the protocols, the grace. May I request Rotarian George Siko, that's for the grace.
Thank you very much, Peter. I would like to introduce the guest speaker, Tusu. Tusu is an engineer with a PhD from Southampton. He's a managing partner of a company called Knowledge Consult. He has chaired a number of boards in and out of Uganda, but notably among them is NITA, UCC, ERA, and the National Citizenship and Immigration Board. But most importantly, I'd like to talk about his Rotary journey. He's a Rotarian with the Rotary Club of Kampala North. He has held many positions in Rotary, in his club, in the district, and in Rotary International. He has served as a district governor, but at Rotary International, he has served as the vice chair of the Rotary International Strategic Planning Committee and a member of the TRF Technical Advisory Group. But most recently, he made Uganda proud by being appointed to serve as a trustee of the Rotary Foundation from 2026 to 2030. Despite all this, he is a friend and a mentor to many. He's a very humble person, very knowledgeable and willing to serve, and inspirational to a lot of Rotarians, including myself. He also takes part in training Rotarians in the Rotary Leadership Institute. I'm not sure how many of you have attended the Rotary Leadership Institute, but if you have, you will have come across him. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present Rotary Eng.Tusu.
Thank you very much, Ian, for the introduction. Before I did in some funny things around this place, when I came in, my friend Edward was taking a very cold-looking glass of beer. So when the approached me, I got excited, and then he came and said, "Why you chai?" First impressions last, and that's what I'm going to remember. And then I don't know how strong people went to Mudo. They never recognize people went to Mwiri. From primary school to senior six, so please never forget that here. But of course I'm delighted because what you might not know is that both these two gentlemen are my sons. They will tell you how and why, but Peter Sewabude and Ian Senka talk about my son, so I'm delighted to find them to welcome by you. My president is called Stella. Looks like I moved from the clutches of one Stella. Those of another, but that is all right. And she promised us a stellar year. Seriously, some of you that are having a stellar year in this club. I wanted to commend you on the performance given to the foundation. $19,000 so far. 19? Yes, you are doing very well. Congratulations. And yet I've been told that we need to talk about the Rotary Foundation and support for the Rotary Foundation. Because it appears, I mean, you guys are gophers, isn't it? What is the best of? Is it powered? Powered? Who is the gopher here? Powered?
What is the question?
If you are an excellent gopher, they say you are what?
Oh, you are level. You are.
How are you designated?
You're scratch player.
A professional. What about a Pikamingi? Okay. We are trying to find out where we fall in that range. And we said we'd approach this by going back to the basics. Because going seriously, quite often in organizations, in our families, in our businesses, we look for change. Interestingly, when you ask people the question, what are you doing different this year that you did not do last year? I don't know if a couple of people can answer that quickly. So, President, what are we doing different this year that we did not do last year? You can ask one of your members to answer if you want.
Let me go for the leadership on my own. What we're doing different this year is that we're all trying to be givers at TRF. Last year, not all were giving, but this year, we incorporated it in our dues and we have a minimum of $30, but we can do better. So this year, we are all giving.
This year, you are all giving.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Every Rotarian, every year.
Every Rotarian, every year. A minimum of $30. That is excellent. All things considered. That is excellent. How many are giving more than $30? Just another question. I know many of you have seen people are getting major donor levels. So I'm just asking to understand.
Looks like everything stops here with me. So far, we are shy of 10 members that are giving more than $30 this year.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thanks a lot. So let's look a bit about being Rotarians. Quite often people don't support the foundation because we don't quite appreciate what it is. And I don't blame them. Because I too would have a challenge putting my hand in my pocket and taking out money without appreciating why I'm taking out that money. If you simply tell me, give me money, and you get a fee, I say, what is the value of that fee? $10? $5? Is it worth the exchange? And therefore, if I haven't quite understood why, then I really will not be persuaded to give. And that's why my approach is different, President. So I'm not asking you to give money to the foundation. I'm asking us to understand why we are Rotarian. And to understand why we are Rotarian, the first question is, who is the Rotarian? What makes a Rotarian? And I've got an agent here with my son who can tell us what this is. So in your view, Ian, who is a Rotarian? What makes a person a Rotarian?
I'd like to say that a Rotarian is a volunteer who committed to serve, to use their vocation, and ensure that they address the needs of the less privileged in the areas of focus of Rotary.
That's why you are the agent. Thanks a lot. Please give him a clap. The word volunteers came up. Do we all agree that we are volunteers?
Yeah.
So what is a volunteer? My colleague, Waisa from School of Public Health, doctor, professor. What is a volunteer?
A volunteer is somebody who is willing to serve without expecting anything in return.
Okay. So if somebody finds me sitting in my house, right? And they say, I volunteer to help, what do? They get a broom and start sweeping, isn't it? If you find me digging and you volunteer to help me, you take a hoe and you start digging, isn't it? Can you volunteer to do nothing? Because this is very common in Rotary right now. People say, I am a volunteer. What makes you a volunteer? You are doing the thing you volunteer to do. And therefore, if you are doing nothing, you are not a volunteer. Therefore, if you are not doing anything in the club, you are not a Rotarian, isn't it? Do you agree with him? I'm just reasoning by inference, like some of these people academics, they like reasoning like that. So we come to Rotary as volunteers. And what qualifies us to volunteer in a Rotary club? What is the requirement for us to become volunteers? Payment of dues, isn't it? But paying dues does not make it a volunteer, does it? It qualifies you to become a volunteer. And you are not a volunteer until you start doing the things that you actually volunteered to do. And therefore, back to basics, going back to the roots of Rotary, and I said, why Rotary? Somebody was reciting the object of Rotary here, my son, teacher said, good day. He was looking for it, and I was imagining a scenario in my younger days. I'm going to visit a date, and I knock at the door. This will be about maybe 60 years ago, okay, 50 years ago. And she says, what do you want? And I start trying to remember what I want. Seriously. Why are we volunteers? What is it that Rotary requires of us? So let's go back a bit to the history of Rotary. Way back in the early, who was training you people here? Somebody was training. Yes, when was Rotary founded? Please continue training us.
In 1905 by Paul Harris.
Okay. 1905. What happened soon after that? We had the First World War, right? So here is a child born when they are just about 5, 6, 10 years old, a world war breaks out. What do you think the priority of that child is going to be? It's going to be survival, right? And the child is saying, how can we recreate peace so that I can have a normal childhood? And therefore, you find that a major focus of Rotary in the early days was about creating a peaceful world. But how do you create peace? You cannot create peace when you have got poverty around. You cannot have peace when people are starving. You cannot have peace when people are deprived, right? You cannot have peace if there is misunderstanding. In the early days of independence, and I'll confess that on the day of independence, I was in primary 5, so that you don't ask my age. On the day of independence, I was in primary 5 and went to India. And things were actually very good in Uganda for the first about 6 years because we were excited. And then trouble started coming in. And as trouble came in, misunderstanding started. The labels came back, right? People became Lanji, people became Acholi, people became Masoga, people became Baganda. They were there before, but in a peaceful sense. But these labels now came up with a connotation of hatred. And that has been going for quite a long time. So Amin comes in and people rejoice. And within about 4 or 5 years, they were bad men. The Muslims became bad people. The Indians were bad people. People from Acholi were bad people. And then those went. Then NRM comes in. And people say Banyakola bad people and so on and so forth. So where does this come from? How can we address that? An organization like Rotary brings all of us together, right? And when we are together, and I start speaking, who's the Banyakola here? Or somebody from my church? So when she becomes my friend, I start helping her 20 minutes. They are not different from me. She's my friend. And I'm going to make other friends. And all of a sudden, I understand. And I wish there would be peace between us. World understanding and peace. So we start by removing those barriers which let us interpret everything in a hostile fashion. What is happening in God is back to 1914. And then when things are settled down, 1939 comes and a world war erupts again. And guess what? Who stepped forefront in terms of all those organizations, the League of Nations, United Nations? It was Rotarians who were giving advice to national government about the need to create world peace and understanding so that we can eliminate war. But of course, we soon found that in the absence of active war, there was also passive war. Because if you are rich, like many of you people are, you have got a big wall around your house. You have got poor neighbors. You think they like you. If they get a chance, they are going to break it. And they do break it. And therefore, want also creates hostility. And therefore, part of our motivation as Rotarians, what can we do as Rotarians to eliminate hostility in our community by dealing with want, right? And therefore, if we go back to the beginning and start reconstructing, how shall we do this? Why don't we form an association? which is all inclusive, where we are like-minded people, so that we can create friendships from among ourselves as the first step. And then once we are friends with that, let us ensure that we are people of good character. Let us ensure that we have got high ethical standards in everything we do. Let us respect all professions, whether somebody comes here as a nurse, a managing director, a general in the army, everybody in Rotary should be respected. I tell colleagues that the title Rotarian elevates all of us to the same level. And that's why I love being called a Rotarian, because I feel elevated. We are the same level. Titles like professor, doctor, engineer, and so on create distinction. But the title Rotarian, we are all in this together. We are friends and have got a common cause. So I've created those bonds of friendship. We say we press highest standards so that we are people of goodwill in ourselves. And then what next? We need to eliminate want and suffering in our community. And so we must apply the ideal of service in each of our lives. In your personal life here, why so? You don't have to come here. The idea of service in your personal, your business life, if you're running a business, and your community life. And that's what we're talking about. That's the purpose of Rotary. So we've come together. We're saying that, look, if we are Rotarians, we have a responsibility that wherever we are, wherever we live, we reach out to others, those in need, and try to elevate them. Because if they are elevated, then we don't need wars. It is the cause of belief, colleagues. And conflict eliminated, then the hatred will disappear. Peace will reign. Colleagues, I get scared for Uganda. The tensions are high. And there's nothing I find more painful than a Rotarian preaching hatred. Because you know what? When there's an explosion, everybody is affected. We have seen wars in Uganda. There's nothing like saying, I am on this side, I'm on the other side. We have a lot of poor people who are suffering, right? They are ready to pounce. If you have got a car, you are not safe. If you have got a house with a wall, you are not safe. You are not going to have yourself there for 10 years. At some point, something erupts around the world, around Uganda. And therefore, our reaching out to community is not simply about them, it's also especially about us. So that we can express that we are reaching out to all kinds of stuff projects. And then we get to the culmination. The advancement of what? World understanding. World understanding means that we understand other cultures. We see where they come from. I understand why a Muslim behaves in a certain way, a Christian. I understand why a Hindu or a Chinese behaves in a certain way, because those are their origins. We cannot blame a person for their origins, because that's how they were shaped, so we are going to be different. Once we understand that and of course that empathy, then we talk about world understanding. Once you understand the goodwill, goodwill means that I wish you well. Even if you are from Budo, I wish you well. That is goodwill.
We also wish you well.
We might defeat you in cricket, but we still wish you well. So, goodwill and peace through a global movement of Rotarians. And that's where the starting point, those are the bases. Because if we understand that and then we go back to our brand, what is the brand of a Rotarian? What is our brand as Rotarian? Does anybody remember? Yes, IPP. Dinga. I know you're very smart.
I will try service about self.
Okay, that's our motto, but our brand. Brand. We're not talking about the logo. We are people of action. Have you seen that? That as Rotarians, that's our brand. We are people of action. We take action, create world understanding, goodwill and peace. We take action to eliminate want and passive suffering, passive violence in the community. We take action to create positive peace through service projects by eliminating want and deprivation and suffering. So people of action means that if you have volunteered to become a Rotarian and you have paid your dues so that you can become a volunteer, then the real work starts. by taking action. And our vision says it very, very nicely that together we see a world where people unite and take action to make lasting change. Where does that change start? In ourselves, in our communities, and across the globe. That's what it means. So once you appreciate that, look here, if we are going to create positive peace by emanating one, what does it require? It requires two things. One, we must understand our communities. Colleagues, until you take a walk through a slum, have you done this in this club? You have, which one did you go to? Kamboja, yes. When you go there, and you see what people live like, you start appreciating why there is sometimes violence. When you go there and you find out that people are very friendly in slums, you start appreciating. Guys, I've been to Kibera, I've been to Mathare, I've been to Korogocho, I've been to Big Slum in Addis Ababa, I've been to Rio Soweto, forget the southwestern township with good houses, but Rio slum areas, and in Cape Town. People are really warm, believe me. But because we see them from outside, we think they are full of violence. For them, they think we are full of selfishness, and then war is declared. But they are really warm. So when you go there, you start getting motivation to do something. Please don't give money to the foundation if you don't feel it. In our culture, it is a curse. By the Muslim with this. In our culture, it is the curse to give somebody money or support when you don't want. So they say, you keep your money, keep your food, don't give it, because you don't have the heart in it. And therefore we are challenged as Rotarians. This one go back to basics, to take action in those two areas. The first one is that we go out and develop impactful service projects. That's the very first one. That is supporting the foundation. Yeah. Then second one is that we contribute financially because the needs are huge. We contribute willingly and generously. I know you said you are putting in your dues as President Stella. But sometimes as human beings we stick to tokenism, which is not good. If you commit something, do it well. If you are going to give well. But if you don't have to give, please don't give, because then that giving does not carry the love that should accompany it. So give because you feel the need in the community, because you want to help. I looked at some of the projects we're having, and I commend you for those projects, President. Then I was thinking, Ian, if I may ask, you deal with big projects. Can you mention the value of one of the projects you deal with? I'm not talking about the value of the project, not your income from it.
About $110 million.
That's about $810 million. Anybody else? $110 million. Anybody else with the bank here? Any bankers? Nangono. You speak to the banker. What kind of money do you need?
Big money, sir. We just put $70 million in income.
Okay. Guys, listen to this kind of man, and I could go around everybody and mention a big sum. I'm not saying that in relation to your giving. I'm saying what kind of undertaking then challenge you and excite you, Edward? That, oh yes, this project we are doing in Kyadondo deserves my focus and brain. We forget this sometimes, colleagues. We gather these people here, high caliber, doing big things around Uganda. Then you give them a project of $10,000. Are they going to get excited? Will they be motivated? No. We need to think of things which are big enough to excite the quality of members of this club. So that's how I said, oh yes, you can even say to his colleagues, you know what, we are implementing a project in Mududa, which is worth $120,000 plus 360 million shillings from East African tourism. That was Rui Kaseke, the banker. That's the project was leading. He was deputy governor of Uganda. He was a member of our club. That project excited him. Why? It was fitting for his capacity. Just service projects, where are you? Yes. I have to be careful now because, I don't try to lose my friend. But I hope you get the point. club. Things like going for a medical camp are interesting, but they don't really excite the creativity and challenge in this group. They need something bigger to excite them. I know because I've seen it. You want to have people not participating, guys, you want to know and swim with the Cambodia. It's good because you get to know the community, but so what after that, right? So let's think about some projects which are going to match the caliber of this plan, because I've looked at your membership. I know many of you, by the way. Yes, I know very many of you, without mentioning any name. And you're capable of much, much more. So that's the other side of the challenge. So President, as I conclude, back to basics. Let us not give money because we must achieve a target. That's meaningless. Let us not give money because the governor has challenged us with another target. That is also meaningless. Let's give money because we feel it in our hearts. That's the good thing to do. If you don't feel it, please don't. Because that money is cast in my culture. So keep your money. But if you do something good, then do it. But then giving money is not enough. Let us go out in the community and develop some really significant projects. I'm not saying what is being done is bad. Those are good. But let's take it a stage higher because we are no longer the club we were at formation. How long ago? 5, 6 years ago? 5 years ago. Yes, we are beyond toddler stage. Let's now get into teenage years and start doing big things. So thanks a lot for permitting me to address you today, and I hope this was meaningful.
Thank you very, very much, Rotary Eng.Tusu, as usual. A lot of words of wisdom, and I think a lot of the most important thing is around the challenge to the club, and which I think is profound for us. So we'll take a number of questions from the audience. Maybe we'll take three questions for Rotary Eng.Tusu to answer, and then over from there. Any questions, comments?
Since you said being a Rotarian brings us the same level as Rotary Eng.Tusu, thank you for your presentation. I always say that I'm new to Rotary because although people don't agree, I've been here quite a bit, but my thinking is always learning. But coming from where I come from, I observe Rotary as being so powerful. Although, as you said, we tend to do small things. And my question always is, does Rotary employ behind the scenes a model to see how they impact, you know? Because for me, the only project I've seen Rotary do big is actually polio. So how can we, within the universe of Rotary, maybe Rotary Ghana, be able to do something which is quite impactful rather than each club doing something small? And then I've always struggled with this thing. Rotary, Bill Gates praises Rotary, especially when he talks about polio. He says Rotary attracted him to polio. And the polio is his #1 project. But the guy said he's going to give out 200 videos. And I'm asking, what strategy do we have as Rotary International to access part of these resources from that phase of Rotary?
Thank you, Rotarian Peter. Professor, 2 more questions for Tusu before he answers that one.
My name once again, Audrey, a guest. I don't qualify yet to ask, but I'll still go ahead and ask. I just wanted to understand what informed the selection of your projects. I've seen Nigeria and other Kamocha projects, and also what's your basis in selecting these projects? Do you follow statistics? Do members suggest? I just wanted to understand.
Thank you very much. Peter says I can stay there. I was a teacher for a long time, an academic. You want to approach and see who is playing in class. And look, people asking in the eye, that's actually what they are saying. Yes, Dr. Waiswa, the question you raised is a big question. How can we collaborate? We have a challenge in Rotary, and I'm going to be frank about it. We want to encourage collaboration, and actually the formation, the start of global grants. In the old days, we used to do matching grants, and we do a project for $2,000. But after research, it was found that that money was actually wasted because they did not create sustainable impact. And therefore, the new grant model which came up was the global grants, where you put some effort in monitoring and evaluation and measurement. But again, it was very limited. But the idea was to take it to a higher level. This is the challenge. Human egos are a big challenge in Rotary. I say that as a fact. So you find that clubs want recognition, right? And thirdly, we the leaders as governors and whoever recognize clubs. So the incentive to collaborate is eliminated. I believe this year, if I'm not mistaken, because we have been urging this for some time, there will be recognition of collaboration. Last year there was some recognition of clubs collaborating to do something more impactful. But you are very right, so long as we work as single clubs, the amount of money we can raise and impact is going to be limited. So we need to face that as one of our biggest challenges. And the idea of global grants becoming bigger and bigger was to get clubs to collaborate to raise the money for those projects. But if they're also in competition, it creates a challenge. So I've got a disconnect between intent in terms of delivery and incentives in terms of recognition. We are doing our best. I'm not in charge in this country, but of course I'm involved in some of the advisory roles. We are doing our best to ensure that we can get more collaboration among clubs. Some of them are now doing that quite a lot, so that they can then have bigger and more impactful projects. Working together and going together as one to big institutions. I think you have noticed that this set of some projects which are coming up, led by the district and involving clubs, so that we can try to eliminate competition. The people who give us money get tired of us, just like some of you get tired of Rotary. Some of you in those offices where you command resources probably get about 40 letters a day from 40 clubs and maybe Rotary clubs, all asking for money. And they get very tired. I know they get very tired. Even as an individual can get very tired if it's time they ask you for money. I don't have anything against my church, Church of Uganda. I don't have anything against the church because the people and the church are different. But you go to a service and there are about 10 collections. And you know, some of you like me are probably targets in your churches, right? Whenever something comes up, hey, Edward, or not where you sent in your that is also destroying Rotary. People get tired and stay away if you are not careful about how you ask. And that's why I say that we are not asking for money. I didn't come to ask for money. I came to make the case for supporting the foundation. So thanks a lot for that, Dr. Wilson. Audrey, have asked a very fundamental question. And by the way, this is the right time to ask those questions so that if you find us disorganized, like he was telling you, he was telling you, you're also evaluating us, you can walk away. Sorry, colleagues. They were taught to evaluate the club and decide if it's a good fit for them. So be careful, guys. If you are taking beer, offer beer, not tea. Determining the projects we do, if they are done correctly, one is understanding our communities, which means that we need to take time off to go out and see what is going on in the communities, right? When you find a community which has got challenges, it's not fairly visible, but you really don't know what the challenges are. And again, this is how we often go wrong. Clubs go to a community and they say we're going to do a what? A needs assessment. It's not a needs assessment, it's a community assessment. Because we want to identify the strengths on which to build. One architect, Ian will tell you that when they are designing, locating a house, they'll get the soil scientists to to isolate the area where the soil is very firm and strong. That's why they build the house, because the foundation is stable. When you go to a community, you identify the strengths of that community, the skills they have, whatever qualities they have, because those are the things on which you build solutions. When you simply ask for needs, it's like asking where is the swamp so that I can put a house there. So you go for the need, whatever you put to be the strength. So that's the other consideration. And after that, you then advise the community and support them. You don't say it is our project. Guys, 80 years now, I call you 80. When the club says you have got our project in Nabalemba, say it's not your project. It's a community project which you are supporting. Because if they don't like it, don't do it, not own. So I said your question is profound because it lies at the center of the things which are happening in many clubs. We need to approach it better. Thinking back what you said, how do we get this to be bigger? The Rotary Foundation has now started what are called programs of scale, where the award is $2 million. But that's not by every single project. They can get bigger. In some of my other free time, as a volunteer, I sometimes support, I've done it twice, the MacArthur Foundation. They've got a program called 100 and Change. They give a single grant over 100 years, somebody knows it. You know it? Yes, $100 million, a single grant. Now that is big. And can be completed for by any group around the world. They've got another grant, and now Bolam Foundation got one recently about maternal and so on. So yes, we want to take them big, but it takes understanding communities and takes collaboration. Thank you very much.
Yes, I asked about tea, because that's where we all started. But mine, on the most serious note, is simple. You are a Rotarian from the Rotary Club of Kampala North, which at your invitation I visited severally and got to admire. Unfortunately, was swept off my feet here. Would you briefly tell us about your giving journey? You are a very successful club. You've won accolades. There's been several governors out of your club. You've been doing collaborations with other clubs. You have many successful projects. What briefly is the story of giving from your club? And what are the lessons that we can take, if any?
I also wanted to add, since we came here, we've been struggling to get our first global grant for Nigeria. We seem to be stuck, mainly because getting the partner on the other side. Maybe you could advise us how we can go about this so that we succeed in one of our big projects.
Thank you very much. I don't know if I have another one to answer Edward Gibson now for no question. No, Kampala North is a very interesting club. When I joined it, he might remember Antlers Inn. You do, some people do. Yes. This was 1989 when I was invited as a guest. Kampala was a tough city, that was not the anything. And that's a new club. We had a sitting location at Antlers Club behind the kitchen, where those days they were using firewood in hotels. Because power was scarce. So it was a smoky little room. That is step number one. Step number two, we started getting into grants. We started that Rotary Club of Makele, by the way. And that's why a lot of people started that club. We are from Makele, and many of us follow that. Not anymore, but had that academic tradition. It's part of the reason why things changed. We moved on to Speak Hotel, we moved on to Grand Imperial Hotel, and then to another place where we stayed for a long time. In our early days, we had matching grants. That's where young people were just having a lot of fun. But then when I became club secretary, I started learning. This was after about 4 or 5 years of membership. The club was getting termination letters every 3 months for non-payment of dues. That is a fact. We're having problems keeping records because you would look at the checkbook. There's nothing on the count on the staffs. There's no record. There are checks which have been signed in advance because somebody has done their head. In other words, it was a broken down club. But being academics, and was rather full of engineers at that time, that's part of our history. Many of them from Faculty of Technology. We started putting in place systems, and many of them are quite harsh. We are now trying to relax some of them. For example, if you want to propose a project, you must go to the community, do preliminary assessment, develop a concept note, and you take it to the Service Projects Committee. It is in our bylaws. They discuss it, look at the merits and demerits. When they approve it, it goes to the board. They discuss it, when they approve it, it goes to the club assembly. And unless the club assembly approves, it will not be done. So no president can come in and say, this year we want to do a project where I come from. Or this year I've got a signature project which I want to run. That is not there. But it takes force of culture, which you didn't touch on here. You must have that culture of unity so that yes, we are going to have these regulations and the governance to implement them. So it is a rigorous process. Now what is interesting is that when there's a rigorous, transparent process, people are more open to giving. Our first Pohari Sero was an engineer, Dominic Kabukse. He saw rest in peace. He was paying $100 every year, and after about 4 years they accelerated, made $1,000. It was nowhere to be seen. It was gone. You guys get it? It was gone. It had disappeared. So we had to collect money to pay that $1,000. So that's how the system started developing. And that's how it became so, sometimes people call us rigid or too strict, but this was out of necessity of survival. And from that was born the culture which you have now. Kampala North gives most when there is a project which is ongoing. So when you say we have got this potential grant, it's about $100,000, we need to raise $15,000, $18,000, you are going to raise it within 2 weeks. Because people have got a cause to give it. They are not forced, they give it in no time at all. That's how it works. Why that giving? If you are going to look for an international partner and your project is $120,000 and you have got $3,000, what does it say? Bank, if I came to you and I support my business, I need a bank loan of $50,000, I put $3,000. What do you say? I don't get it. Same thing happens with international partners. You can't get a partner if you are not putting in money. Mistake number 2, we think of recipients. How often do we think of supporting projects outside? We have supported projects in USA, and it's not $2,000, but those guys say, wow, one international partner in Philadelphia, inner city, a project somewhere among the nation, they used to call them the original American project there, Kenya, Rwanda, India. When you make a contribution to other projects outside, you make friends. Guys, this is the internationality of Rotary. How many of us have been to the convention? Put up your hand. Rotary International Convention. Rotary International Convention. Yes, yes, many of you have. And this is what happens. You go there to make friends from other countries. You stay in your small group, in your hotel, sit together, drink together, sleep late together, and come back together. You have not made a single friend. And then you say, where are the international partners? There are those people you didn't talk to at the international convention. I'm being blunt here, colleagues. Because this is what happened. Maisha, a new club, got partners in no time at all because I told them, guys, when you go to the convention, don't sit together, you're raw to make friends. And that's what they did. They went to Hamburg. They made friends. We went to Munich, that project concepts. They got the funding for that project they are doing in Munich by making friends, colleagues. I hope that answers your question. So, if you are going to the convention, please, I know it's fun to sit together. But surely, I come from Willie. If we start together, we will never get married. You understand that? I have got a bit wife because I ventured. We are more venturous because we had a need. People from who don't have a need, so they. I hope that answers the question. So that's how we do it. It is through suffering and pain that we put in place our systems. It's through commitment that we sustain them. Right now we are readdressing the constitution because we see that some things are too tight, some things are too loose, and we're trying to do another cycle of revision so that we can be better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rotary Eng.Tusu.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Rotary Eng.Tusu. It is always a pleasure to listen in as you talk about giving. My question is, we have district designated funds, we have the TRF, we have Polio Plus, we have different giving platforms. What is the relationship between what we give and what we get out in terms of grants?
Thank you. Members, maybe let's have one more question and then we can wrap it up. Question, comments, then students can wrap it up.
Return to Sue. You asked who is the service project chair, and I know everything you're saying, you are like hitting your screen. But this is the thing. I come from a good place. She wanted a hug. Yes. No, this is the thing. You see these people here, they're smiling a lot, but they're not easy. Okay? You try to start a new project, they tell you there is a strategic plan. Who gave you the permission to start a new project? You try to go out and do a community assessment. They tell you Rotary Club of Kyadondo is governed by the bylaws. So I'm asking here, and I'm standing in my capacity as service project chair, for your guidance on how to approach this. I understand we only have 3 running projects, and we've been running them for the last 3 years. All the fundraisers are about those 3 projects. There is a need to shift our focus to bigger things and better things, and to complete the projects that are running. So my question is, guide a sister on how to talk to these people, to deal with the situation that's there. Thank you. I would also like to ask a very simple one. Is it possible to get a global grant without any giving? Like, you just get a global grant of about $100,000 and you have nothing in your coffers. How lucky can one be?
Well, the questions get more complicated as I get more tired. Rich, I think, let me say the Rotary International administers Rotary. The Rotary Foundation deals with all the service side, whether they are Polio Plus, whether it's grant scholarships, everything falls under the Rotary Foundation. So let's make that distinction. So the trustees of the Rotary Foundation are put in place by the Board of Rotary International. But once in place, like any trustees, they operate independently. And therefore they deal with the funding and what we Bill and Melinda Gates, I didn't answer that question. Some of that stuff, Bill and Melinda Gates, yes. Bill and Melinda Gates matches everything we give Polio Plus 2 to 1, if I'm not mistaken, right? 2 to 1. So if we give $300,000 million as Rotarians, he puts in $600 million. And this has been going on for some years. So it is a part of that money, that big pot of money, unless we give up. So, what we get out, the Rotary Foundation is first and foremost a trust organization. Look here, you are a club in Uganda, Kampala South. There's a club, San Diego, or La Jolla Golden Suns in California. They are going to send money because the club in Uganda requested support a major global grant, right? They don't trust you. Unless there's somebody in between who can ensure that trust. And that's what the Rotary Foundation does. the trusted party who ensures that the funds are well managed, faithfully kept, not abused. And that's why if $1,000 is not to have been swindled from a global grant, the foundation can spend $10,000 investigating it until they get the person responsible and take them to court. So that's the first role of the Rotary Foundation. The other one is the global investment, because right now I've got a portfolio of $2 billion and $50 million in the investment fund, plus annual collections of about maybe another $1 billion, which are utilized for Korea and so on and so forth. So it is significant money. And therefore it is part of that money which comes to us. So this is what happens. We raise $300,000 as the district for the annual fund, right? After investment for some time, part of that comes back as district designated fund, which the district can then use to support clubs doing global grants. And I think there's a formula for that which has been shared already. That money will not be enough. We then go to an international partner and say, wait a minute, our DDF is limited. We can only get $10,000 from our district. We need a total of $100,000. Somebody else gives $25,000 DDF. Maybe that's now $30,000. The foundation then matches that money, currently 80% to one, I believe. And therefore you actually keep on making more money than you put in. If you're in a country like Uganda, why? You really find major projects being done in the more economically advanced countries. I don't say developed, because I think we are very developed society now countries. So I always make a distinction about industrial development and social development. We are very developed socially. We have more industrial development. But most of the money comes to our country, so that's why we benefit a lot from this. Can you get a project without any contribution? It is extremely unlikely, unless you are a prostitute club. What is a prostitute club? Yeah, guys, don't pretend you know prostitutes, don't you? They are trying to do innocent.
They do.
I'm not saying you go to them, but you know them.
The way you are looking.
Nowadays there are some male prostitutes. So, we know that. So a prostitute is a person who do anything, provided you do what? You give them the money. So there could be an international club which just calls you and says, we have got a project we want to do in Uganda. We have got all the money. Can you become our local partner? We shall even pay your contribution as a local partner. That happens, by the way. What happens nowadays is that our district catches that out, because that's normally swindled. So yes, you can get the money, but it will be very, very improper. And they are going to order you around. So please never accept money where you don't have a say. You must have a stake in your project so that you can then control it. Now the tough question from my sister. As she said, oh my daughter, whichever you can choose then of the two. Oh, granddaughter, you look quite young. People are not easy. I know them. There's a challenge in Rotary. When you become committee chairs, these people seem to assume they are parliamentarians questioning a minister. And I was wondered about it. Some projects chair comes, instead of coming up with suggestions and so on, they are tearing the person apart. What happens next time? Nobody wants. You are going to start having that challenge where you want officers and nobody is willing. Because once you take office in many Rotary clubs, they become targets, not leaders. Whatever goes wrong, service projects, what are you doing about it? But we are here as volunteers, colleagues. A volunteer in a club does 4 things, which are pillars of an effective club. 1, we build membership in the club. How many of us have introduced a member to this club? Hands up, please. We build clubs. Edward, you asking a question here. How many of us have brought a member to this club? Put up your hand. Okay, that's good. We develop and implement effective service projects. How many of us have initiated a project? So let me ask the question again, might not have been clear. The pillars of an effective club: one, build your membership, which means that each of us should invite. That's what we volunteer to do. Number two, develop and implement effective service projects. It's not service projects here. Bring her the ideas, your suggestions, let them be discussed. Because she's not the originator of the ideas. She's supposed to be the moderator of the ideas which come from the members. Why don't we visit this community? I think we could engage here. I've met this organization which is doing wonderful work. That is us, the members. Number four, we support the Rotary Foundation by giving. All of you have supported, right? At least $30. Some not yet, because I was looking at the club recognition, somebody didn't see the $30. But that will be addressed. I'm not asking for money. Then number four, developing leadership in the club and beyond. How many of us have led in this club in any office? Put up your hand. In any office. So the rest, are you volunteers or not?
Professor Chimeza told you
So I hope I've answered your question. Colleagues, we have got this challenge. We want change and improvement in our Rotary clubs. All of us living in my club. But the biggest mistake is that we assume the executive will do it. The executive assumes members are going to do it. All of us are supposed to be doing it. We are part of the same game. So if you want service projects, be the change you want in your club. If you want to see membership growth, be the change you want in your club. If you want more support for the foundation, be the change you want to see in your club. If you want leaders, volunteer to lead, because leading in Rotary is the best opportunity for becoming an excellent volunteer in your business and in your home. Thank you very much.
This is a certificate from the Rotary Club of Kyadondo. It's a certificate of appreciation, proudly presented to Rotarian Tusu in honor and deep appreciation for serving as our guest speaker on the topic Back to Basics, Actualizing Our Rotarianism Through Service and Giving. It is signed by the President and the Secretary. I'll hand it over to the President to present it.
Thank you. Round of applause, please. Thank you.
Embuzo giraba